Hey friends, welcome back to the garden. If you're new here, I'm Joe, and I've been gardening for years, growing food for my family in every season. A lot of folks think gardening ends when summer winds down. But let me tell you, fall is actually one of my favorite times to grow. Why? Because the cooler weather makes for sweeter crops, fewer pests, and a lot less stress from heat and drought. Plus, some of the healthiest, most nutrient-dense vegetables thrive in fall conditions. Today, I'll walk you through how to plant a fall garden. Everything from preparing your soil, to choosing crops like spinach, cabbage, broccoli, and Brussels sprouts, to tips on timing and frost protection. By the end, you'll see that your garden season doesn't have to stop in August. It can keep going well into the cooler months. Let's dig in. Before we get our hands in the dirt, let's talk about why fall gardening is so rewarding. First, the flavor. Cool season crops like spinach, kale, carrots, and Brussels sprouts actually taste better after a light frost. The cold turns some of the plant's starches into sugars, making them sweeter and more tender. Second, there's less competition from pests. Many of the bugs that plague summer crops die off or slow down in fall, so you'll deal with fewer chewed-up leaves and worms in your broccoli. Third, cooler temperatures mean less stress on you and your plants. You're not out in the blazing heat, and you don't have to water as much because evaporation slows down. And finally, planting a fall garden stretches your harvest window. Instead of pulling out tired summer plants and leaving the soil bare, you can be harvesting fresh greens, cabbages, and broccoli well into late fall, sometimes even winter, depending on where you live. So, fall gardening is easier, tastier, and more productive than you might think. Now let's talk about how to set it up. One of the trickiest parts of fall gardening is timing. Unlike spring, where you just wait for the last frost date, in fall, you're racing against the first frost date. Here's how to figure it out. Look up your average first frost date for your area. Then, check the days to maturity on your seed packets. Count backward from your frost date to know when you should plant. For example, if broccoli takes about 70 days to mature, and your first frost is October 15th, you'll want to plant around early August to give it enough time. Now, some crops like spinach and kale can survive frosts and even keep growing under protection, so you can plant them a little later. Spinach especially loves cool weather. I've had it survive under snow with just a little mulch. If you're starting late, don't panic. You can often find seedlings of cabbage, broccoli, or Brussels sprouts at local nurseries in late summer. Starting with transplants instead of seeds gives you a head start. The key is planning backward from frost and knowing which crops can handle the cold. Once you've got your timing figured out, it's time to prep the soil. By the end of summer, your soil might be pretty tired, especially if you've had tomatoes, peppers, or squash in it all season. First, clear out any spent plants and weeds. Then, top dress with a couple of inches of compost. Fall crops are heavy feeders, especially brassicas like cabbage, broccoli, and Brussels sprouts. Adding compost gives them the nutrients they need for strong growth. If your soil is compacted, give it a light fork or broad fork to loosen it up, but don't overtill. You want to keep that soil structure intact. This is also a great time to mulch. Adding straw, shredded leaves, or even grass clippings helps keep the soil cool and moist during the late summer heat, which is especially important when you're getting fall seedlings established. Healthy soil equals healthy plants. If you give your fall crops a nutrient-rich, well-mulched bed, they'll take off quickly and reward you with a bountiful harvest. Now let's talk about what to actually plant. Here are some of my go-to fall crops and how to get them going. Spinach. Spinach thrives in cool weather. Sow seeds directly into the soil about 1/2 inch deep and keep the bed moist until they sprout. You can succession plant every 2 weeks for a steady harvest. Cabbage. Start with transplants if possible, since cabbage takes a while to mature. Space them about 18-24 inches apart. They love fertile soil, so don't skimp on compost. Broccoli. Another cool weather favorite. Like cabbage, transplants are easiest. Space them 18 inches apart and keep them consistently watered. Broccoli is a bit of a diva in hot weather, so make sure you're planting late enough that it matures in the cool season. Brussels sprouts. These take a long time, often 90-100 days, so they need to be planted mid to late summer to hit their stride in fall. They're worth the wait though. After a frost, the sprouts turn wonderfully sweet. Other honorable mentions: kale, carrots, radishes, and lettuce. All of these thrive in fall conditions and can often handle frosts without issue. The key is picking crops that actually prefer cool weather. Unlike summer plants, these don't just tolerate the cold, they thrive in it. Alright, so you've got your crops in the ground. Now how do you protect them when frost rolls in? The easiest method is using row covers. Lightweight fabric like Agribon lets sunlight and rain through, but keeps frost off the plants. You can drape it right over your beds or use hoops to make a mini greenhouse. For really cold snaps, you can add a layer of straw mulch around the base of hardy crops like spinach and kale. They'll keep growing under the protection and bounce back even after a freeze. Cold frames or low tunnels are another great option if you want to extend your harvest into winter. Basically, it's like giving your garden a little jacket. Don't overthink it. A little protection goes a long way in keeping your fall garden productive well past the first frost. Before we wrap up, let's cover some common mistakes gardeners make in the fall. Number 1, planting too late. If your crops don't have enough time to mature before daylight hours get too short, they'll just sit there. Use that backward counting method to plan. Number 2, not watering enough in late summer. Fall crops often start during the hottest time of year, so don't slack on watering when seedlings are small. Number 3, skipping soil prep. Summer crops take a lot out of the soil, so if you don't replenish nutrients, your fall crops will struggle. And finally, don't give up too early. Even if your plants get nipped by frost, many of them will bounce back. Fall gardens are tough, tougher than you might expect. So there you have it, the complete guide to planting a fall garden. We talked about why fall gardening is so rewarding, how to time your planting around frost, how to prep your soil, and the best cool season crops like spinach, cabbage, broccoli, and Brussels sprouts. We also covered frost protection and a few pitfalls to watch out for. The bottom line, gardening doesn't have to stop when summer ends. In fact, fall might just become your favorite season once you taste that sweet, frost-kissed spinach or harvest a big head of broccoli in October. Thanks so much for joining me today, friends. If you found this helpful, give the video a thumbs up, subscribe for more gardening tips, and let me know in the comments. What's your favorite crop to grow in fall? Until next time, happy gardening.